just say I'm pissed off, Angelo. I'm pissed off.
There's not a... Will you shut up and let me answer?
I think I'm breaking every FCC rule in the book. I'm calling both games.
As rare as sanity in the world today, we have a good Thursday night football game to watch. Just like in the olden days of 2015, Seattle versus Arizona has serious ramifications on the division. The Cardinals will be hungry. They're riding one of the greatest highs an organization can have after last week. And against the Seahawks, they bested them earlier in the year. But for Seattle, in their newly christened Lumen Field, they are the kings of this division. Any and all rivals will be quashed beneath their might. Ironically, it's not really by Russell Wilson today. It's from an outstanding defensive effort. Try saying that a few weeks ago. Pat Pete can try and fight it all he wants, but he has chosen death. And a 15-yard penalty. You know who has also chosen death? Seattle's fan base. Yes, it is yet another game where they have to try and hold on to another close lead. The University of Phoenix, in their high-flying wisdom, went for the patented Grossman maneuver. Fuck it, go deep. 4 straight plays of it. You know you have 2 timeouts to burn, right? Seattle's defense makes clutch plays to secure the win. Exactly as it was predicted to be. Is anyone really surprised by this result? Detroit should have been licking their chops. No Christian McCaffrey or Teddy Bridgewater. A chance to get back to 500. It would have been the worst case scenario for their team, but logic pointed to them dominating with their offense. Draw 23, Lions. Folks, this wasn't a game of offense or defense, this was a game of coaching. Carolina seems to have a good one. They were starting P.J. Walker, the XFL legend himself, and he looked relatively comfortable in the situation. Their defense was dominant. The Lions are run by hacks. It shows in how they failed to do any goddamn thing in this game. They were blown the fuck out in every single aspect. This should have honestly been even uglier than it was. This wasn't humiliation, this was annihilation. Total destruction of a franchise for 60 straight minutes. Everyone in Detroit knows this was for the best. The only way things can get better is if Patricia and Quinn get fired. Can we fire owners as well? Just asking for a few friends. Philadelphia. A football team as ugly and bleak as the conditions on display in Cleveland. Can someone please save Carson Wentz from himself? Is there such a thing as football rehab? Because Wentz needs it. Years of injured offensive lines and no big weapons have destroyed him. He's not throwing the ball, he's flailing it around in the hopes that somebody's there. I know a lot of people are blaming him for these bad decisions, but honestly, I don't think that's the case. I think this issue is systemic. The Browns' defense, without their best edge rusher, destroyed them at every waking moment. They couldn't properly scheme for it. Wentz had no choice but to try and force passes. Nothing was working. Clamped in a vice grip. That's what Cleveland did to get to 7-3. There's only one way this could get more degrading for Philly. There it is. Oh god, here we go. A game where the Steelers are projected to destroy an openly tanking opponent. I've seen this movie way too many times to call it a foregone conclusion. This game is going to get ugly. And to be fair, it did. But it was for Jacksonville. In video game terms, it would be like Alabama going up against Division I AA Southeast. Their placeholder quarterback could be Jake Luton, for he was pantsed on regional television. Is it really his fault, though? This Pittsburgh defense is pretty good. They've broken far better quarterbacks than him. All the offense needed to do was just enough to secure the win, and they did just that. I honestly don't know how to feel. I'm not used to this. Decisive victories against teams they should be beating? And against a team that usually kicks our ass? I'll take it. Isn't this where that fucking Yenzer is supposed to come in? He got arrested again? Figures. It appears that the Saints received warnings about famous Jameis and his propensity for the culinary arts. They have chosen not to partake in such a risk. Taysom Hill, the $20 million Swiss Army knife, will be the full-time QB. It's obvious the offense isn't at full strength, but that wouldn't be what would bring New Orleans to the win factory. It was in team defense. The Saints got relentless pressure on Matt Ryan. With the propensity for voodoo, you can believe that his soul now remains at the Superdome, doomed to wander the field and haunt those that play on it for the remainder of time. Sacked 8 times, 2 interceptions, the only points scored by the one called Cuckoo Kachoo. I know that was terrible. It's just like the Falcons' offensive play calling. Let me pretend it is for once. Jesus. The former champion and runner-up for last year's Tank Bowl gearing up for a duel of fate. A fantastic matchup of fantasy and top draft picks. It's just as beautifully ugly as I had expected it to be. Everything dies when they arrive at FedEx Field. Careers, promising arcs, hope, and especially quality football. The comedy of errors on display reeks of teams that know the real prize at the end of the day. The first overall pick. All that remains, Fat Randy. He chose to participate in the Parky Challenge. Charity he's donating to, the Island of Misfit Kickers. Despite this, Cincinnati has the lead, but it's only by 2. I fucking knew it. This offensive line is going to kill Joe Burrow. He literally got Carson Palmered. Can we have anything that's good in this league? Seriously? And the Bengals are on a ketamine high saying their O-line is fine? Fuck off to McVay's teat, you underqualified rube. You can go back there as we deal with Ryan Finley. The guy impersonating a Madden-generated prospect. He's still in the league? Washington, here's your win. Alex Smith finally gets his feel-good moment since the devastating injury, but like this? The cost might have been far too great to bear. God, I fucking hate the Bengals. Ruin everything they touch. Be careful, but the Patriots are still clinging on to dear life in the AFC playoff hunt. They have a slumping team in Houston on their dinner table. You know there's a special holiday coming up this week, right? Oh yeah, New England is probably under a de facto shelter-in-place order. A strong majority of their family doesn't live in the immediate household. The ones that don't apparently include the team defense. Remember when Deshaun Watson was leading a team with playoff ambitions? Well, they're technically still alive, don't tell Deshaun. He's beasting again and choosing to leave nothing standing. Spirals to his friends throughout the skill positions. He wills the Texans to a strong lead and they never let it go. The defense would do the rest. As for the Patriots, they're 4-6. I'm not saying anything more until I can confirm them dead, but I'll take it for what it is. Tennessee going into Baltimore with a Ravens team needing a win to keep their playoff hopes sustained. It almost reminds me of a certain situation that occurred back in January. Something about past memories of Titan King Henry using Baltimore defenders as glorified blockers. Lamar Jackson becoming highly erratic as the offense sputters most times. Wait, this was supposed to be a flashback, not a depiction of the current game. The thing with Baltimore as of late? They look highly sus. The Ravens are the epitome of frustrating. They'll have these moments where you'll think they've gained consistency on offense. After that, they'll suddenly have their hands doing completely different tasks than the brain provides. I can't make heads or tails of what Greg Roman is doing here. It's like he's trying to offset Lamar Jackson's flaws by playing right into them. Zone in on the run and force the pass. That's the way you beat this team. They've been completely exposed. They'll have to rely on their defense to hold it down, if they even can. Dragged by A.J. Brown. Is Patrick Queen the new Titans fullback? The fortunate thing is that the Ravens are pushing into field goal range with a good shot of winning. But then the off-sync offense magically comes back into play. Fun times. Field goal kicked, to overtime we go. Somebody should have told the Ravens. You going to do anything to stop Tennessee? You know the playoff race is tight, right? Let's talk to your dad about it.
Henry getting free. Henry's gonna end the game. Titans take it in overtime.
That Steelers game on Thursday now looms large. Might be borderline must-win at this point. Good luck. In 2016, the Chargers ruined an imperfect season by their tremendous ineptitude. Can they do it again? This is a very special Tank Bowl. No, it's not happening. The Jets are the Jets are the Jets. All that LA needs is Justin Herbert to literally carry them on his increasingly strengthened back. The god-awful nature of lol Jets will do the rest. You know what would be funnier? Having a key piece of the opposing offensive attack being a guy you cut earlier in the year. He didn't do much, but it's still ironic. Despite trying to allow New York back in the door, the Los Angeles Herberts do not repeat the same mistake. They allow the Jets to maintain the winless dream. And you know what else that means? New York is an imposter. Get the hell off the ship. You sure the NFL is easier than you expected, Tua? You sure you want to say that only a few games into your young career? Teams haven't been able to properly scout against you yet. They haven't zoned in on your weaknesses. It happens to every quarterback, and it was only a matter of time before it happened to you. Denver is hopefully the wake-up call he needs to adjust his game style accordingly. Now, he wasn't horrible, but that Bronco defense always felt 1 or 2 steps ahead. Even as favorites, Miami just felt like they sputtered. This includes the defense. Against a team that had been struggling to gain traction on the ground, what do you think happened? Absolute gashing. They simply had no answers for it. With all of this underwhelming performance, a decision was made. Tua was told to step aside for the return of the legend, Fitzception. Unlike Tua today, he's at least generating some sort of momentum for the offense. Now, only if the D could respond with their own big play, that would be fantastic. They're still giving up yards en masse. At least give them a chance.
Gordon has got 2 rushing touchdowns. Breaking free. Oh, look at this run. He fumbled.
I'll take it. Now is the time for magic. Slowly pushing down the field, squeezing the life out of the defense. This is what playoff teams do. They find ways to win.
Into the end zone. And intercepted. Picked off by the all-pro Justin Simmons.
Now you see why we call him Fitzception. He giveth and he giveth away. Praise be the immortal himself. False hope. It bleeds in both of these franchises. At least Minnesota has some reason to feel it. They've won 3 straight against division rivals. Dalvin Cook is eating. They have a cupcake schedule coming up. First, Dallas. Andy Dalton is back in the saddle after an extended absence. After this long skid of incredibly ugly football, they need a safety valve to ease the blow. Dallas may have gotten it. Weeks of turmoil, and apparently the answer is to face the Vikings defense. Zeke was finally able to feast after weeks of dieting. Dieting? Yeah, let's go with that. Dalton became what he was advertised to be when he was brought here. But despite all of this and a few key fumbles by Minnesota, they are trailing by 4 late. This is the stuff Mike McCarthy is known for. Do you remember back in Green Bay? His genius and a bunch of outstanding individual efforts led them to repeated comeback victories. And if there's anything McCarthy is good at, it's warding off Viking invasions. Let's see if he can do the same here.
Dalton looking at Tony, throws, touchdown!
I've warmed up to Tank Division. It is the most horrifically intriguing foursome in football. Pure equity. Every team has 3 wins. So what team should I start simping for? You know it's a highly prestigious game when Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are on the call. I'm not saying that's a good thing, it's just Fox's main broadcasting crew. Fortunately for us, these 2 teams chose not to settle for mediocrity. They promised a high-profile matchup, and by God, we're going to get it. Green Bay is showing why they've been considered to be a top contender for the NFC crown. Aaron Rodgers is forcing it in places that many can't do here. The Packers have spread their wings and are flying to a 14-point lead at halftime. Keep the foot on the gas? Not in their terms of agreement. They've done enough. Time to go home, apparently. Thanks to an offensive shutdown and some well-timed fumbles, Indianapolis does what they do best. They muck and grind their way back into the game. See, it's their turn to prove superiority. Colts have been overlooked far too often this year. They may not be the flashiest team, but by God, they're going to get their statement win if they die trying. Oh dear, it appears someone pressed the overtime button at Buffalo Wild Wings. You know what this means? Holding penalties galore for Indianapolis. And some more of that Rodgers sorcery. I'd say that was more important, but we have some overtime coming our way. Green Bay gets the ball. You know what this means.
Valdez-Scantling, ball top.
The entire fan base wants MVS dead. Yes, it is solely his fault that the entire offense laid an egg in the second half. Indianapolis gets their statement win and also keeps pace with the Titans. Good work? Very good work. I like a team that causes cheeseheads to melt down. The Raiders are in a pickle. A good portion of their defense is either on or had time spent on the COVID list. Against a team like Kansas City and their offense, it will be a great challenge. A win here will be huge for Las Vegas. It will not only solidify themselves as contenders, but will give them a strong edge in playoff seeding. I will say this, Vegas is holding tough. They have flaws, but they mask them by being dialed into the scheme and game plan. Imagine me not thinking John Gruden would turn into a meme in the modern NFL. I probably jinxed it. Derek Carr, honestly, is looking like he's back in 2016 form. He looks poised, confident, calm, controlled. Everything you'd want in a starting QB. A shootout ensues. Defense is left to waste as the passing attack holds serve throughout the night. The Raiders may see themselves with victory with a touchdown late, but they gave Kansas City too much time. You know what happens when you give Mahomes even a sliver of an opportunity? He takes advantage of it.
Great protection again. Mahomes to the end zone, wide open, touchdown.
The Chiefs have the last laugh. A heartbreaking loss for Raider Nation. They will not get their leg up in the playoff race. I can't blame a good effort, though. Their uniforms may be horrible, but at least the Rams' on-field product hasn't been shit this year. The one thing they need, though, is a statement win. Most of their victories this year have been against tank division. They won't be taken seriously until they beat more than Seattle. Oh, would you look at that? The Buccaneers. They're perfect. LA can make Tom Brady's day a living hell. Ceaseless attacks against him in the pocket. And none of it is by Aaron Donald. The game plan? Jared Goff throwing over 50 times. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, it'll work. It's a back-and-forth twist of fate with two teams eager to gain ground. The defensive struggle continues on into the fourth quarter, with quite possibly one of the worst offensive drives I've ever seen by the Rams. Botched snap, delay of game, interception. Tampa Bay takes momentum and ties the game. Rams, you need to do something here. They must have heard all the doubters. They push hard, but only for a field goal. There's too much time left, and Tom Brady is unfortunately known for comeback drives. My condolences, as Brady has had serious trouble throwing deep. Rams win. You beat a legitimate opponent. It was kind of sloppy in the end, but good work. Let us end this occasion with the dubbing of the Lolcow of the Week. This time we have 4 nominees eager to strut their stuff. They are the officials for Purdue versus Minnesota, for this awful phantom pass interference call on Purdue, robbing them of the game-winning touchdown. They would throw an interception on the very next play. Ref ball at its finest. The Denver Broncos, for having absolutely no idea how to end a game on their final drive. I know, winning. It's shocking. The Cincinnati Bengals, for being a shithole franchise that has potentially ruined the career of Joe Burrow. Fuck them. And Green Bay Packers fans, for sending alleged death threats to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. It's a fucking game, Jesus Christ. No one deserves to die over a fumble. And the winner, by a close margin, is the Packers fan base. Sorry, Tom Grassi, I love you, but I have to deal in absolutes. You and your brethren are Lolcow of the Week. If only MVS dropped that pass on the final drive in the fourth quarter, this could have been avoided. There's a big batch of offerings to our insatiable gods this week. Let's get to it.
Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit lost.
Can the gods please just stop? This is supposed to be a cheap gag, not a somber reminder of the horrors of football.
Well, Jim, we were talking all morning about the enormity of this game, and as you saw what happened, a skirmish in midfield because the Titans came out, they took the field, they went into the center, and Malcolm Butler yelling at the sideline to the Baltimore sideline, John Harbaugh coming out in disgust, Mike Vrabel coming out, the officials just giving warnings to both teams, but if this is any indication, expect some chippiness throughout this game, Jim.